Oh man. Hello.
Welcome everybody. Sziasztok.
Good morning.
Olá a todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello to you all.
Hello everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, I'm Adam.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning to all of you.
Hello, Europe.
Good morning to everyone.
Hello from Lithuania.
Ladies and gentlemen.
As John Barton said, the European Union is the world's most successful invention for advancing peace. It is an honor to be representing the hope and initiative for future Spanish generations. Although we have not been deprived of democracy, nor have we suffered the conflict of war, we must continue to learn, not only from our achievements, but also from our mistakes. We work for a better future, not only for European citizens, but for the whole world.
In February this year, we joined the Ambassador School project with the slogan, European Parliament is in the heart of Mohács Kisfaludy Károly Grammar School. And now, a few months later, we are actually here in the heart of the European Parliament. Thank you, Euroscola, for that.
Good morning to everybody. I wish you to have a fruitful day and fruitful meeting and discussion. My name is Dimitrios Papadimoulis. I am Vice President of the European Parliament. I come from Greece. It is my second mandate in the European Parliament. My portfolio in the Bureau of the European Parliament is related with gender equality, diversity, the relations with the national parliaments all over the world, the relations with the trade unions, the relations with the Council of Europe.
I believe my question concerns all of us gathered here today. It is related with the employment in the future. In our days, technology is advancing at mind-blowing speeds. And thus, it's not surprising to begin wondering, when will it, in the form of automation, replace us? What do we do then? And how well is the European Union prepared for it? Is it perhaps working towards a universal salary?
It's a very good question. I think that we have to invest in innovation, in education, in order to be prepared for the new phase of the economy with a large extent of using robots and so on. This could be a challenge for the people not to lose their jobs, but to work in a better atmosphere, in a better environment. 2 centuries ago, when we have the Industrial Revolution, there was a fear that the engines could replace the human resources. It didn't happen. The crucial challenge is to modernize our economy, to invest in the young people, improving the education, improving the innovation, improving the modernization of the administration, and giving new opportunities to the young people like startups. It's up to us also to use that opportunity in order to increase the social pillar of the economy, strengthening the social state, creating new services. So I think that there is not a threat, but a challenge. The new technologies are pushing us towards a direction of creating new jobs in the new era.
I'm also from Greece, and I want to ask Mr. Papadimoulis, in Greece and also in other countries, that do you think that the less favored areas, for example, with high unemployment and with low development, should enjoy a preferential tax regime and other types of developmental incentives, for example, exemptions and subsidies?
Our country is facing a huge challenge. 8 years ago, there was a bankruptcy of the state, and we were forced to implement a bad, difficult treatment, which had created a huge recession of more than 25%. and a triple unemployment, which jumped in the end of 2014 in 27%, and the youth unemployment to 55%. Yes, you heard well, 55% youth unemployment. Now we have started recovering the economy. There is a reduction of unemployment from 27 to 21%, and a reduction of youth unemployment from 55 to 43%, but it's huge already, also to now. So it's important to keep recovering the economy, creating new jobs, increasing the investments, and use all our resources, public, private, domestic, foreign, to boost the economy. And on that, the provisions are good for the coming 2 or 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, and I'm convinced that in next August of 2018, Greece will succeed to have a successful exit from the era of memoranda, and we will continue having an inclusive growth. Our human resources, and mainly the young generation, is the strongest capital of our country, and we have also not only to invest on them, but to take our lessons from the past. The bad governance of my country, of your country, which had created such huge deficits and debts and such painful unilateral recession and reduction of salaries, pension, and social state, has to be a lesson for our people not to make the same mistakes.
How can the European Union help a certain country if the country can solve its problems with the corruption? Thanks.
I think that the corruption is one of the major threats for our democracy. And we have to use and to improve all the necessary tools in fighting the corruption in all possible levels. In the level of the European Union, we have the OLAF, it's an institution fighting the corruption. But also we have to fight the corruption also in the national level, in the regional level, in the level of the municipalities, in the level of trade unions, everyone. And everything has to be done in order to reduce the corruption. A window for corruption is a lack of harmonization of the legislation. I'll give you an example. There are some multinationals which are using the gaps in the fiscal policies of the member states, trying not to pay taxes. And so we have, as a result, big multinational companies like Fiat, like Google, not to pay taxes, using a window of opportunity and making agreements with corrupted politicians in member states, and that transfers a burden to the citizens who are paying a lot of taxes as salaries or as pensioners, as small and medium enterprises. So the corruption, the fight against corruption is not only a moral duty, is a duty which could save money for social state, for education, for innovation, and also for strengthening the economy, investing in new fields. But you said you are from Bulgaria. It is wrong to wait only from the European Union to fight the corruption. It's up to everyone in every country to fight against corruption, corrupted politicians, and corrupted laws. It's up to us to ask for a change, and I hope that the young generation will be an engine for reducing and diminishing and destroying the corruption as a phenomenon in politics. I'm happy for that debate. I am, after that debate, more optimistic about our future because you are our future. And I think that the young generation has to be more active in politics, not only in your life, but in the public sphere. Some of you probably, you could be in that hemicycle after 10 or 15 years or earlier, representing your countries, your people. Good luck to every one of you, and I'm sure that that experience of participating in Euroscola, it could be a good experiment of democracy and parliamentarian life. You are helping us to become better.
We started with the suggestion that we would cut 1 tree and then plant 3 more, investigate standards in charging stations for electric cars companies. So the companies would put a lot more electric stations around so people would buy cars. And we came to the conclusion that those cars right now don't have that much affection on world, but if we would have a lot of them, like in 7 years, it would actually help the environment because there would be a lot of them. More efficiency of transporting, so they would invest in local proceeds, so we wouldn't drive the parts like from China. The example was with phones. Phones are made in China and they drive it here to Europe and around the world, and they would like that Europe would have its own companies to work on this, so we wouldn't have to transport everything.
So our first proposal is to tackle the wage gap between men and women, because it's obviously there. We propose that if companies or organizations aren't paying the same amount of wages to both men and women, we would introduce a tax to these companies. And in the end, it would cost the companies more to pay the taxes than to have originally just paid men and women the same wage in the first place. We also discussed that we're brought up with, sexism just doesn't happen, we're brought up with a sexist mentality. And we think that if we introduce EU-sanctioned regulations in schools, that jobs that are traditionally meant for women, for example, ironing and cooking and cleaning, if we make it mandatory for boys in schools and girls to learn these skills, then that would perhaps reduce gender inequality. Our second proposal was to tackle LGBTQ rights violations. We think it's important that, because there's a lot of hatred towards these people, and we think that it is important to talk about these issues in school because again, we are brought up with the mentality, and we think that maybe 1 hour a week should be devoted to discussing this hate in class. So this hate doesn't turn into more, like for example, hate crimes. We also think that gender-neutral restrooms should be introduced. So traditionally there would be a sign for men and there'd be a sign for women. So if there was one with no sign or a gender-neutral sign that anyone could use.
So the first one was we plan to reduce financial aid to different non-EU countries when we have not enough money in EU. but we will help in other non-financial ways, like send volunteers, build or rebuild schools, hospitals, educate people, send volunteers for education, provide medical aid, learn them enough skills, help them to involve some sport activity, send our students to be teachers in the poor countries, and send unemployed people to as volunteers and make voluntary work as a kind of a traineeship after ending the school. And the second was we will encourage EU companies to settle in non-EU countries, and when they transport their products back to the EU, they will be given a reduced tax rate. This will benefit non-EU countries because they will get jobs and salary, and the money will help their economy. The third was we will make a separate EU committee to make a list of low economic countries based on their GDP, employment, child mortality, education, and this list will be revised every 6 months. And the fourth, help organization with getting new volunteers, motivate young people to join the organizations, help volunteers to get job easier when they return back home.
We should use euro in all EU members. With this proposal, we answered on the questions of what would you like to change about Europe and what should European role be in globalized world. So we know that now 19 out of 28 members of the European Union use euro, but we propose that it will be 28 out of 28. We think that it is important that we keep euro stable and with low inflation, and we think that it will be easier to do so, keeping low inflation and keeping euro stable, if all the European Union members would use euro as a currency. Actually, an answer to the questions to what extent should Europe promote its values in the world. So we should first focus on stability in the European Union, and then to the relations with the others, with the other countries. So we would focus on the stability with programs such as Erasmus, having EU classes in school, having more people coming to EU elections, and after that we would promote EU to the other countries. So it was important to us to say that the stability of European Union itself in the inner borders is more important to us than the relations with Russia and the USA. And yeah, more stable Europe brings also easier connections to the outer world.
The first way to integrate is, of course, learning the language. It should be the very first condition for immigrants to immigrate well, because in order to get involved in society, you need to be able to communicate with everyone. So, yeah, communication is key. And on the question on how to raise awareness for immigrants and how to get to understand them, my committee agreed on going through a way we all know very best, and that way is through media. We could, for example, come up with more documentaries displaying the journey of a refugee. Perhaps we want to make people aware of the situation in the homeland of the refugees to understand them better and to sympathize with them.
How will you make sure that those documentaries will reach everybody, every category of people?
Right, I wanted to point out one thing. These documentaries, they're made to raise awareness in a... I could bring in the example which was proven by the International Monetary Fund, that immigrants who arrive here help us raise the GDPs of the European Union. They help us out. It's like an investing, basically. But instead, we treat them like some barbaric animals. You see, what this documentary would do, or any form of raising awareness, it would stop people from basing their opinions on hearsay, and instead having them, making them critically think and research their things.
Yeah, we collected 4 ideas how to solve the problem of youth unemployment. And for example, we thought of more exchanges by investing more money in programs like Erasmus, but also create more opportunities for younger people, for example, in high schools, to do exchanges for a whole year, for example. Because through exchanges, young people gain a lot of experience, not only because they live, learn and work in a different country, but it also leads to a positive development of their characteristics, which are very important at the workplace in their future life. Our second point is to invest more money into countries with high youth unemployment, to make funds more available for low-income families to send their children to college, but also to create new jobs by boosting the economy. We also came up with the idea to decrease instead of increase the age of retirement, to make more jobs available for younger people, because often older workers have less motivation and creativity than younger workers. And often young people have great, extraordinary ideas, but they are not able to make these reality because they are not supported as much as the older people who work at their workplace since many years, because they don't have as much experience as these older workers. We thought that these ideas should be supported way more than they are today, because often younger workers are very enthusiastic about their job and are passionate about it, and why should we stop these young hearts to do what they love to do? Another solution could also be the early opportunity to specialize in schools, to provide young people with skills that make them attractive for employers, more doing than learning, but also to encourage young people to not drop out of school by being able to specialize to what they want to study instead of studying things they won't ever need again. Thank you very much for your attention.